Welcome to a little bit on Imago relationship theory. And thank you for being here. And I just wanted to give you a little bit of insight into Imago and how it's sort of used, and also to give you a little bit of work on how you could use this in a relationship, a partnership, between two people. So this is more for partners, okay, at the end of it. So you can fast forward if you need to the pieces that are important to you, but just to give you some insight into how this process works. Just know that this is not a replacement for anything else that you may be doing as a couple, or this is just an added tool that you may use that you could find could be quite helpful in your connection with each other and learning more about yourself. So that's what this is main purpose vehicle is, really to keep that connection and growth happening. It's actually sort of unconscious things, like without knowing it, we're kind of choosing a partner in our life that actually is the opposite to us. Now you sort of say, oh, that's crazy. Why would we do that? But actually what happens is it sort of stems a little bit from childhood. And in Imago therapy, it's known as the lost parts. We're looking to find those parts that we perceived were lost. They're there, but we can't see them. They're unconscious to us. We don't believe they're in our life. They're in our subconscious. And in DeMartini methodology, the DeMartini method, it's actually more like the disowned traits, the disowned parts, okay? So that's what you're looking to do with that methodology as well. So just the differentiation between the two methodologies. The one's a bit deeper than the other, and this is a listening tool, so this is for this one. And partners are sort of there to mirror the other disliked personality traits, but also just to mirror and start listening to each other about things that are of interest to them, or ideas, or their I ams and their personal values. It's that kind of reason for that as well. So that's also part of what it's there to do. Okay, and now what else it is that we're actually looking to sort of have a way to see if we can calm the amygdala down, which is in the hindbrain. The amygdala is actually playing that part of really our reactive state, like something comes at us and we have conflict and we react, okay? And what we're looking to do is bring forward to the forefront, the forebrain, the executive center, where we can sort of use our intuition a little bit, and our intuition is where we're connecting our heart and mind, and we kind of can hear the voices of reason, let's call it, and a little bit more logic is playing out, and then eventually, sort of we're sparking those beautiful ideas because the neurons are connecting. So we want to operate from the forefront of the brain, so that it helps to calm the amygdala down, so that we don't have these extreme polarized behaviors and conflict that tends to develop over time in relationships. So that's kind of the purpose of this listening tool. Now, what I wanted to say is that, how does it start out? It starts out that you meet someone, and of course, there's these sort of 4 stages of evolution that we go through at the beginning of the infatuation stage. And first, it's like that physical. Usually it's something physical that's attractive about them. It talks to you, whatever it may be, but it's beautiful to you, whatever that looks like. And then there's some kind of psychological. Sometimes psychological can come first. It's something that someone says, and then the physical comes second, and then you find them attractive. But it's those two sort of come together. And then there'll be the sociological test. Does the family like them? Does friends like them? Colleagues, community, so that's that little sort of, yes, I've got the affirmation. And theological, we have the same spiritual beliefs or the same overriding values, okay? And that is what gets us into this partnership, whether it's a short-term or a long-term one. That's what gets us there. And it's quite difficult because infatuation distorts time a little bit. Like those 2 minutes of kissing can feel like only seconds of kissing, so it's a little bit of a distortion of space and time. All right, agreed. And then what happens is we then have the other side, which comes either quickly or takes a while. I'm not sure where anyone's at, but it's that power struggle. It's the coping, and it's the resentment stage, and it comes later, sometimes later, but this is what it looks like. It's got the ugly, okay? Physical's gone from beauty to ugly. The psychological is kind of depression, maybe anger, resentment. That's what you're kind of seeing playing out. And the sociological is now you're negated by the family and the friends and possibly colleagues and possibly community, depending on where this slides. And the theological is that side swiping events because we sort of haven't listened to the cues, and that is the sort of resentment stage, which also distorts space and time, because in this case, you could have a 2-hour road trip with someone that's not going so well. You're in the coping stage with your partner, and that 2 hours can feel like days. Okay, so we've distorted space and time. So what we want to do by using the Imago process is to really bring ourselves back to connection, to be able to get back to communicating with each other, because we know that communication is growth. It creates fair exchange. It creates relationships. It gets us to listen to each other, to hear each other. It's a dialogue rather than a monologue. And when we're infatuated, or usually there's some kind of, we're looking up to someone, there's some level of not fully being ourselves, okay? Not fully being ourselves. And that isn't so great. That's more of a dialogue still. A monologue. And then, of course, you've got the other side, the resentment, where it's also monologue, where we're definitely not listening and we're just talking over the top of each other or not talking at all. And so we want to get back to ourselves, which is all of us, and being fulfilled, and to learn more about ourselves and to learn more about our partners we're with, and have this beautiful life story where we have challenges and we work through them and we sort of grow from them. And, we're not running away. We're also not getting too extreme, and we're bringing ourselves back to connection as frequently as possible. So how does it work? The structure of it, the appointment and the role allocation. This is how it looks. It allows the receiver to shift from reactivity to intentionality. Isn't that beautiful? To intentionality, just like we intend to have this day today, and we're intending to have this kind of life, and we're intending our mission and our purpose, and we're on track, and that leads to a very fulfilling life. So we're moving from reactivity, which is great, the amygdala, reacting, the impulse instinct, going for the pleasures or running away from the pain, and then moving back to that intentional space. And the sender will now send a message. So you're sort of deciding which partner is going to go first in this session. And in one session, we have one partner sending and one partner receiving, and it's a new session when we swap it around. Okay, so each person's going to get their turn, but just not on the same session. All right, so it's just one sender. And usually it's whoever's most reactive is probably the best person to go as the sender, or the person that's got to share something, an idea. It doesn't have to be reactive. It can also be something that's, just to share and to practice the tool and of listening. And so they send the message, and then the receiver, their job is to really be curious, to cross the bridge, and actually to really listen to what is that person saying, not to be in their own head figuring it out or wanting to rebut or say what they think or whatever. It's just to mirror back, and then you keep going. And normally in the next session you would switch roles, not in this situation. So you would sit, your positions are to sit in a partnership one, face to face, nothing in the middle, chairs facing each other, okay, sitting close together, open body posture, feet on the floor, hands easy in lap, eye to eye, heart to heart, knee to knee. I've done this virtually. It's been a new world in the last few years with the pandemic. So I've been also doing this virtually with clients, and I'm facilitating, talking them through it, and just to keep them in process, which can be quite tricky your first few goes, and just to make sure that there's that, heart to heart, eye to eye. So you're sort of putting your hands out like this, and you've got that shoulder contact. And what I want to say here is that even if you can't see, it doesn't matter. I've done this in organizations with masks on many times over the last sort of 5 years since I've been introduced to it. And what happens is I find that you're just more attuned with your hearing, and actually you just hear, and you there's this perfect dance between each other. So whether it's a family Imago, partner Imago, it's more about, am I tuned in? Am I really curious to listen to this person and what they're saying? Okay, and you've got to make that decision. You've got to be intentional about that decision to really want to receive that message. And there's sort of a rhythm to it, and there's this 3-step rhythm of change, and it's basically to mirror, to validate, and they call it to empathize, and that creates that safety. It's not about dissolving the charge, it's just about hearing it. So it's not about dissolving the charge or fixing the problem, it's just about really listening to it. All right, so that's what this tool is for, to really listen in connection with each other. to make sure you stay in the process. And if you fall out of process, so what that means is if someone starts speaking or someone gets a bit angry at each other and you're not doing one sender and one receiver, then it's just about reminding each other, let's get back to this process and just attempt to keep each other on track. Sometimes you might need a facilitator if it's something really big, but if you can do it yourself and practice it, you'll get so much better over time, and it'll just be a little bit sort of sometimes emotional at the beginning. There'll be some spitting of words like, you never do this, and in this case, and just remembering to actually send in small amounts. So you're just speaking about yourself. I feel like this is what I'm thinking, this is my perception, this is where I'm at, not making assumptions or pointing fingers out or saying where someone else is at, just really talking about you and yourself. And it doesn't have to be a negative thing. Remember, in the infatuation stage, as I said, it's a good time to do it. All right, but keep the topic as the sender on yourself. All right, and then just say almost and keep it on yourself again. Okay, and just be mindful that you probably will shame or blame yourself, and that's all right, because it's good sometimes to hear back what's going on for you. All right, but not to do it out to others, or it'll just break the process up. And then mirror as accurately as possible. But what I say is if you're present and you're really curious to step into that world, that's going to come really naturally, and it's not going to be about remembering everything. And just know that you're saying, am I with you? And the sender can actually say, almost, the piece I wanted you to hear was, and you can just add that in and then repeat it, or not quite, it wasn't quite what I was meaning, even if it is what they said, because they might be saying, hey, it's not quite what I'm thinking, it's actually this. And so it's good for them to hear their voice back, and it's okay to say, oh, the piece I really wanted you to hear, or the thing I wanted to say actually was this. And it's okay for that to happen. That's actually beautiful when that happens, because they're dropping in deeper. And you'll just find as you practice this tool together, it's going to become much easier over time. And you're going to get into this dance of really tuning in and listening to each other and listening to what's going on, and not necessarily pointing out at each other. And what bursts from this? What bursts from this is beautiful strategies, wonderful conversations of connection, okay? Because now it's not about me saying you're the problem, it's about what is going on for me. And that way I get understanding about my opposite, the person that I maybe am resenting, the person that I maybe am infatuated with. Practicing this during the infatuation stage is perfect, because you tend to be more willing to do it, okay? And that gives you the tool ready for the next phase when you've been in the relationship a bit longer, and everyone knows what I'm talking about here. I'm 21 years into my marriage. And so just give that a shot and see how you go, and really just enjoy it. Don't be so hard on yourself, and just take it as it comes, and feel free to connect and get some help. We're here to help you to really make sure that you can have a fulfilled life for yourself, that you can be who you truly are, but also have these beautiful connecting relationships around you that creates your wonderful life story. My most inspirational people in my world, my grandparents who are 94 and 93, living by themselves, still have their individual purposes, have outlived every goal they've set, and they keep setting more goals. I just interviewed them recently to capture some of those moments. And was there struggles? Absolutely. Did they go through coping and resentment stages? Absolutely. Do they still go through some of that? Absolutely. Okay, but they keep coming back to connection. And obviously there's a lot of wisdom of the ages there. And so let's not feel like we have to get to that age to actually learn some of that wisdom now in our lives. Let's move forward.